4 people.
According to a recent Yale survey, 7 in 10 Americans believe global warming is real and happening, and 6 in 10 believe it is affecting U.S. weather, but only 1 in 3 say they've personally felt its effects. According to an article entitled Climate Change, How Do We Know?, the Earth's climate has changed throughout history. Just in the past 650,000 years, there have been 7 cycles of glacial advance and retreat, with the abrupt end of the Ice Age about 7,000 years ago, marking the beginning of a modern climate era and of human civilization. Most of these climate changes are attributed to very small variations in Earth's orbit that change the amount of solar energy our planet receives. Before taking environmental science class last fall, I was not aware of the extents of global warming. Since then, I have been more aware of the consequences. Global climate change has been right under the public's noses for quite some time, but most people do not want to admit that it's true, or they don't want to make excuses for the topic. We will be reviewing greenhouse gases, rising sea levels, the cause of climate change, and finally I'll throw in what the critics of global warming think and what the scientifically proven results are. To begin, I will talk about the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. According to an article entitled A Blanket Around the Earth, most climate scientists agree the main cause of global warming trend is human expansion of the greenhouse effect, or warming that results when the atmosphere traps heat radiating from Earth towards space. Gases that contribute to the greenhouse effect are water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. Water vapor is the most abundant greenhouse gas, but importantly, it acts as a feedback to the climate. Water vapor increases as the Earth's atmosphere warms, but so does the possibility of clouds and precipitation, making these some of the most important feedback mechanisms to the greenhouse effect. Carbon dioxide is a minor but very important component of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is released through natural processes such as respiration and volcanic eruptions, and through human activities such as deforestation, land use changes, and burning fossil fuels. According to the A Blanket Around the Earth article, humans have increased the atmospheric CO2 concentration by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution began. This is the most important long-lived forcing more than a third of climate change. If you refer to the diagram I have provided, you will see the natural rise of CO2 levels. There are levels that go up and down, and that's just the seasons changing, but overall it's just going up slowly. Methane is a hydrocarbon gas produced both through natural sources and human activities, including the decomposition of waste in landfills, agriculture, and especially rice cultivation, as well as remnant digestion and manure management associated with domestic livestock. On a molecule-for-molecule basis, methane is a far more active greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, but also one that is much less abundant in the atmosphere. Nitrous oxide is a powerful greenhouse gas produced by soil cultivation practices, especially the use of commercial and organic fertilizers, fossil fuel combustion, and nitric acid production, and biomass burning. Chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs, are synthetic compounds made entirely of industrial origin used in a number of applications, but now largely regulated in production and released to the atmosphere by international agreement for their ability to contribute to the destruction of the ozone layer. According to the Blanket Around the Earth article, over the last century, the burning of fossil fuels like coal and oil has increased the concentration of atmospheric carbon dioxide. This happens because the coal or oil burning process combines carbon with oxygen in the air to make CO2. To a lesser extent, the clearing of land for agriculture, industry, and other human activities has increased concentrations of greenhouse gases. The consequences of changing the natural atmospheric greenhouse gases are difficult to predict, but certain effects seem likely. A stronger greenhouse gas will warm the oceans and partially melt glaciers and other ice, increasing sea level. Ocean water will also expand if it warms, contributing further to sea level rise. Some crops and other plants may respond favorably to increased atmospheric CO2, growing more vigorously and using more water efficiently. At the same time, higher temperatures and shifting climate patterns may change the areas where crops grow best and affect the makeup of natural plant communities. Next, I will discuss the rise of sea level across the planet. According to the article Climate Change, How Do We Know?, global sea level rose about 17 centimeters, or 6.7 inches, in the last century. The rate in the last decade, however, is nearly double of that from last century. Data from NASA's Gravity Recovery Climate Experiment show Greenland lost 150 to 250 cubic kilometers of ice per year between 2002 and 2006, while Antarctica lost about 152 cubic kilometers. With sea levels rising, that means the lower leveled islands will be covered in water. It's honestly a cycle, starting with the plants. Water covers the plants and causes most of them to die. When the plants die, the animals lose their source of food, along with their habitat that is now underwater. And when the plants and animals die, humans lose two sources of foods and also their homes. This cycle continues forever. Like sea levels rising, the ocean is also shown to be heating up. According to an article entitled Global Ocean Heat Content 1955 to 2008, in light of recently revealed instrumentation problems, the oceans have absorbed the increasing global heat, with the topmost 700 meters, or 2,300, of oceans demonstrating a warming of 0.320 degrees Fahrenheit since 1969. This is harmful and deadly to algae in the ocean. Even on the surface of the oceans, something that is easy to record scientifically, global warming is more than noticeable. Next, I will discuss the main cause of global climate change, which scientists believe to be human-based. For this, I referred mainly to my notes from my environmental science class that I talked about prior. According to the Climate Change How Do We Know article, 97% of climate scientists agree that climate warming trends over the past century are very likely due to human activities, and most of the leading scientific organizations worldwide have issued public statements endorsing this position. We as humans are putting 110 million tons of global warming pollution into the atmosphere every 24 hours. According to Casey Baker, the accumulated volume of that heat-trapping pollution now keeps enough extra heat in the Earth system to match what would be released by 400,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every day. Electrical pollution is around us every day. Fossil fuels are made of dead plants and animals, which are burned to create electricity. Examples of such would be oil and petroleum. Many pollutants are burned to create electricity. Examples of such would be oil and dead plants and animals. Examples of such would be oil and petroleum. Many pollutants are sent into the air when fossil fuels are burned, which can also be called greenhouse gases that I talked about earlier. Petroleum is used for transportation, making electricity, and making many other everyday things. Other examples of using energy and polluting the air are turning on a light, watching TV, listening to music, washing and drying clothes, riding in a car, playing a video game, etc. This ultimately causes the greenhouse gases to be sent into the air. When we throw away garbage, the garbage goes into landfills. Garbage is burned, which sends enormous amounts of greenhouse gases into the air. Cutting down trees is harmful to us as humans because trees and other plants collect those greenhouse gases. With fewer trees, it is harder for people to breathe because there is more CO2 in the air. Plants are essential because they collect the CO2 that we breathe out, and they give back the oxygen that we breathe in. CO2 collects light and heat, or radiant energy, produced by the sun, and this makes the earth warmer. The heat and light from the sun is produced in the center of the sun. The result of this is light and heat. When you pollute, you send chemicals into the air that destroy our atmosphere. This results in more heat and light not being able to escape from the Earth's atmosphere. Finally, I will discuss what the critics of global climate change think. According to John Cook, despite all these factors involved and the evidence shown from highly credible sources, mostly governmental, there are critics of global warming as a scientific fact. One such criticism is that there is no real consensus that it is real, and that it is something made up for discussion. However, the fact is that according to the authors of 7 major climate consensus studies, about 97% of climate scientists believe in global warming. Another is what is happening now as a part of Earth's geophysical process, and that every 1,500 years, the heat distribution of Earth switches between hemispheres, though total heat globally remains the same. However, this is much different happening than human-produced global warming, which has been created by emissions of CO2 in the atmosphere within the past 200 years. Unlike natural heat variations, the present temperature increase made by CO2 is being recorded globally, on the ground, in the air, and in the oceans. A third criticism is that glaciers are actually growing, but the fact is that the most glaciers are actually retreating, posing a serious problem for millions who rely on glaciers for water, and with rising sea levels. A fourth criticism is that water vapor is the most powerful greenhouse gas, but rising CO2 increases atmospheric water vapor, which makes global warming much worse. It is not a natural heat distribution issue that happens precisely at the same time the 1,500-year hemisphere seesaw, but rather an issue of global heat increase that has been happening since the Industrial Revolution. To review, greenhouse gases serve an important part in the Earth's atmosphere. Water vapor has proven to be the most important greenhouse gas, as it basically gives feedback to the climate. The serious impacts of changing the greenhouse gases are difficult to predict, but with the impacts already being measured by scientists, it is becoming easier for them to predict. Rising sea levels from glaciers melting could cost people their homes and, more importantly, their lives. Islands such as Hawaii could be underwater if climate change continues. The cause of climate change has been linked to human activity. We as humans are able to reduce the amount of energy we use and help the Earth stop from being polluted with harmful gases. With every critic to global climate change comes a scientist with data and experiments. There is always an answer to a critic's statement when it comes to global climate change. As an individual living on Earth, we can do many things to try and reduce global warming. An example would be carpooling, which would minimize the amount of greenhouse gases put into the air by the car. We can also do simple things such as turning the lights off when we leave the room or taking shorter showers. Global climate change impacts the many species on Earth. Heidi Colan once said, "You're never going to think of global warming as an issue that's urgent unless you recognize the fact that you're already being impacted." Thank you.